could not believe.
I've been sweating these last 3 weeks. I'm just like, okay. Know what that means if I'm pushing through. Our system is shutting down. So every time I get started doing some work, it's giving me the blues. It's a blessing in disguise.
I cannot believe.
Doing some work. It's yeah, so this was a good workout too.
Good.
Don't know what's happening in my world, but something is happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because I guess to me, let me see what am I gonna say? Okay, maybe I could do it this way. This looks like convoluted. There we are. Okay, so now let's see. I'm sorry, I'm trying to no. Let's see what happens. All right, so I don't know. I was trying something different because I yesterday I couldn't see the stuff, and so then I tried putting this on a different screen, and now it's all backwards. Everything is all backwards. So whatever, we'll try to make it work. We'll work it. So yay. Anyway, yeah, I went to the Playhouse last night.
Oh, nice. What'd you see?
I think it's called a men's choir, and it's kind of like it'll put you in the mind of Stomp. Remember when Stomp was out? Bunch of men on the thing banging stuff and dancing and singing, and so that was kind of what it was like. It was good. It was high energy. I still fell asleep because I'm getting up at 4:30.
Yeah. Oh wow.
I still fell asleep in there. And it's so funny because those little naps, you think nobody notices, but they probably do. It's like head bobbing, trying to wake up. They were doing social distancing, so every other row, and then I think it's 3 seats apart.
Okay.
3 seats apart from the person that the group that you came with, and then it's every 3 seats. So never mind if the person that you are sitting with may be contagious. I don't know, but yeah, so that's the way that they had it. So it was cool. It was cool. I don't know how I feel about going out and stuff.
Right.
But I got invited, so I was like, whatever, let's go. And so went down there with a friend of mine who, she works down there, and she is so like a little kid, like, oh, we're opening. So she's so excited. So yeah. So I went down there and saw that, and it was good.
Yeah. I was invited out to karaoke, and I'm not feeling sharing mics with people.
Oh, girl, I have actually, I got a bag full of microphone covers.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do.
I was going to purchase them because I was just like, I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling.
Right. I'll put some in a baggie and drop them off because they're these things.
Yeah. I looked on Amazon last night because I was like, am I going to not do karaoke or not? I thought maybe I'll buy my own karaoke machine and just do my own stuff in my house or something.
Yeah.
Because I'm really kind of over the whole atmosphere anyway right now. So we'll see. But yeah, the mic covers is what came to me when I was sitting there like, do I want to go? And I'm like, I don't What for? I don't want to be in the next mic when somebody hands me that mic. I just don't.
That's why I do my radio show from home, though, because people, we spit on mics when we talk, you know.
Exactly.
And so yes, they are germ magnets. And you see some people like Jay, who is down at the station. Jay will bring in his own mic, disconnect all of the stuff, plug in his mic, and when he's done, he puts back on the other mic that everybody else uses and keep it rolling. Because I mean, when I can hear myself inhale on a mic, and so it can, if you can imagine that stuff, that backdraft kind of, yeah, you don't want all of that. So when I bought these mic covers, I bought about 100 of them, and I've maybe used 20, if that. So I got a whole bag full. So
thank you.
I can bring you some.
Definitely will, because if that's going to be a thing, I definitely have to change my program. I wish that I could bring a mic, because my ex-husband used to always bring a mic too for me to sing with. But the mics at the karaoke place, everybody is different, and then some of them are wireless. Most of them now are wireless.
Yeah.
Mics, and anyway, so it was just a thing. I miss it a lot. But yeah.
Where do you do karaoke?
Well, I used to do karaoke at Booker's right here at Cedar and Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And then my girlfriend asked me to come out to Networks. She's been going there for the last 4 weeks or so.
Mm-hmm.
Thursdays.
Okay.
And so those are the only 2 places that I have gone since being here. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and I'm just a little leery.
I hear you. I get it, because I'm leery about a lot of places, you know.
And it's the crowd too. Like I'm not necessarily ready for that part either. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
no shot. I don't care. People still getting sick with the shot. Like yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I got 2 little people I got to protect. They're big people. But.
Yeah, but you know, it's interesting, because most places I go, I still wear my mask. I may take it off once I feel like I'm, like I didn't, once I got in my seat, I took off my mask yesterday. Okay. But walking in and going past all of those people, I was wearing a mask. And I've had my shots, and I still masked up, because and now I think masks have given us a certain level of comfort that I think some people will always be wearing a mask, Well,
they do in other countries before the pandemic, so
yeah,
something to be said about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a certain comfort in it. And I think in the wintertime, I love the warmth that wearing a mask provided. And it does create a little distance, although people can't see my smile. And a lot of times I'm smiling, but yeah, it's like, it ain't personal. I'm just wearing my mask. So it's me. Ain't about
but that's when you rely on energy.
Yes.
And like energy will attract, you just rely on. That's what I do when I'm in the store. I'm smiling, and I'm just like even more in tune to what energy am I putting out right now? Yeah. Like making sure that I'm radiating something.
And so yeah, that's exactly. I'm gonna be lighthearted. I'm not looking away. I'm not being mean or anything. But a lot of times I am listening to something on my things. I am listening right now to Cicely Tyson's book. And her book has really been powerful. She talks a lot about Miles Davis, her and Miles Davis's relationship, which, you know, the relationship in and of itself is a tumultuous relationship, as you can imagine. And since we are in this relationship chakra, what's interesting to me is that while Cicely Tyson seems to be a powerhouse unto herself, she talks about the relationship that she had with Miles Davis in the context of what she saw with her parents growing up. Her father was forever cheating on her mother. It just seemed like that was what he did up until her mother left him. And then it seemed as if, since now it's not the forbidden fruit, he wasn't like into the fruit like he was before. So anyway, there is a light that is dancing around me, and I'm not exactly sure where it's coming from.
Is it coming off your glasses from the light, or your earrings?
Maybe it's the earrings. Anyway, maybe it's a orb. Okay, maybe that's the earrings. Okay. So in she was talking about what she saw with her parents, and maybe that was kind of what set the stage for how she was in the relationship with Miles Davis. And she talks about her love for him in spite of his drug issues, and in spite of his cheating, and even cheating with women in their home, in their bed, and so all of this, she talks about what she grew up seeing. And so I'm constantly aware of how much we are impacted by, what we see. So I find it really interesting. I find her book and her thinking around it. And while she can feel so empowered in some areas in her life, in that particular area, it seems as though, she was, that was kind of a different thing. So as we go through this, I think that that some of this stuff will come up and keep coming out. So today we are in the section where it talks about Kundalini energies, and just talking about that stuff. Okay. Were you familiar with Kundalini energy before this?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay. I know that was one of those things where I used to buy these books and get different information. This is not the only book that I have on sexual health. As a matter of fact, I've got some that trying to think of what shelf they would be on, but I used to quite often buy books that talked about how to cultivate that type of ecstasy, that type of intensity when it came down to, or comes down to, our relationships. And as far as the sexual part of it. So I'm going to pull this up because I don't believe that my Facebook is working right over here. So Yeah, and when I pull this up, I see that there is a comment already. Oh, say okay. So good morning, Gretchen. Thank you for putting that up. And when I pull this up, I see now I got to figure out how to put my phone on mute. Okay, so good morning. Oh, there it is. Okay, so there we are. All right, so
I can't see comments today.
Okay, I just
That's odd.
I just finally saw one. So cool. So today we're talking about this, and I don't know, Gretchen, had you heard about Kundalini energy before? But I remember having one of those Kundalini orgasms, and it was just like one of those things. I have never really taken drugs, right? I'm not a drug user, ever, right? Unless you count smoking marijuana when I was in high school, right? So I'm not, that's not my stick. It's never been my stick. But if I could imagine what it would be like to have that kind of a high, I would think that would be what that Kundalini orgasm reminds you of. You just want another one. I'm just saying it was so intense and so good and so otherworldly. It was all of that. Just too bad that, it's not something that I was able to cultivate in that relationship. So Kundalini energies are contrary energies of the psyche and body. The way that they say it is that the Kundalini is kind of like a snake going up your spine. And when you have a Kundalini orgasm, it's not an orgasm that takes place in your chakra, down in the lower chakra, but rather one that comes up and comes out through the seventh chakra. Like it's something that you feel. I don't even know.
Feels like I describe it like a tree rising up with little tentacles that come out like this. But it's like this energy that goes like, if I could draw it, would be this like a bottom of the root of a tree that comes up and it's got these tentacles that come, because you feel it like this energy and pulsating out like this way.
Okay, so let me tell you what I used to always tell people, that one of the things that I loved about fireworks is that a firework would remind me of one of those orgasms, right? You see
that's
that
really good. Yeah,
that little spark of light that goes up and it goes up and it goes up. And it's just like, oh, don't let me just lay, let me just and it's like
I've never had it. I've always had it in meditation. I've never had it with another person. I've always had it in my own meditation. I've never.
Yeah, I had it with it. I had it with an idiot. I had it with an idiot. And if I could have just if he wasn't such a challenge, that would just be one of those things where I would just ride that surf. But whew, that was one of them things. I tell you, I am not long suffering. I am not that girl. Beat it. I ain't that girl. So but so the way she says is it winds around your spine, and it goes from that base chakra, the first chakra, up through the crown of your head. And so it is otherworldly. It is extremely intense. And one of the things that I found out, y'all, I'm just gonna go off to the left for a minute, because like I said, I've done a lot of reading on this, and so for men and for women, the orgasms, both of them are extremely intense. in some teachings I have read, especially about men and their orgasms, it is not supposed to, you are not supposed to dissipate, as they would call it, every single time. It is like a building, and that building, that building out of energies has a very profound effect. And so with women, and in Eastern talk, an orgasm is something that should have, just like everything else, be within a cycle. And so they talk about the importance of the intimacy of kissing, because not only do you have this building here, but it's almost like a sharing of energy. So something that you share with your partner. And so we talked about the other day about how a lot of times people don't even look at each other during sex, or that there is not that circular thing where the two people are together in that. So we are not here to talk about just sex in isolation, but rather just to talk about this Kundalini thing. So I'm not going to stay or dwell on that, but this is something that I think that we are able to cultivate, and to get there when you are. Yeah, when it's right, it is something that you can aspire to. So Kundalini.
I'll share this with. So when I went through my divorce, I had other stuff going on inside in myself, and I was dancing, and I was challenged in my dancing with people touching me, touching my hand. I got whatever. I got stuck. I didn't want anybody touching me, and so I went to a shaman to do some work on energy. And that's where I learned how to release that energy. It was like I was holding myself hostage because I was married. I didn't want people touching me. Then I was going through, after that, then I was going through a divorce, and I had some issues with, what if I get connected to someone and a spark happens, or, and I was afraid of that spark. I was afraid of that connection. And having the Kundalini experience just helped to just open me up and get me outside of myself and be able to feel my truth instead of feeling my fear, because fear was like overtaking me, and it just manifested in me not wanting people to touch my hand. But I love the dance, and I would do the dance, but when I got done dancing, if I didn't stay on the floor, I would sit down and I would just start shaking. And so I would dance, and then I'd go ask somebody else to dance. I just had to stay on the floor, because if I stopped to think that people were touching my hand or touching my shoulders, touching my waist, something crazy happened. And at that same time, I had some female issues going on. Later on, I found that out too. And so that the Kundalini exercises help to just open up and reveal a lot of truths inside of myself. And so that's why I say that for my story, that it was a experience of freedom and revelation, and forgiveness and self-forgiveness, and a lot of good work can come from those experiences, working with the right people.
Right. Now this was in ballroom dancing.
Yeah, well, it's Kansas City two-step.
Okay, Kansas City two-step. And so
which is like ballroom dancing.
Okay. Yeah, I know you mentioned ballroom dancing on here before, so I just didn't know if, and so I, touch is powerful, period, right? And so whether it is, sometimes we know right off about touch that that seems to how do I want to say it? Because I know when I have been touched and have felt like nasty after somebody touched me, right? Just and so I think about this diminishing type of stuff. But to be on guard from touch does, and you don't want everybody touching you, people that you don't know. And so it was you working through that brought you to that awareness. That's good. That's good. Because I'm sure that because I know a lot of people who are really sensitive to people not only touching them, but also being in their space. And so sometimes, I wonder if that is something that needs to be worked through, or, that's really good. That's really big.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I would say that if anybody is going through that, I know that, like I said, I am really conscious about how I experience a person's touch,
mm-hmm.
because sometimes it is salacious.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that. And usually, especially now as I am older, I can speak to that. I have not only the audacity, the permission to say no when I mean no. I remember when I used to volunteer at this place. This is a side thing. I'm telling y'all about how the mind can work. But I was volunteering at a place, and there was a guy who used to touch me all the time. And I would ask him over and over again, don't touch me.
I know.
Don't put your hands on me. And he seemed to not be able to respect that. I would jump out of the way. So finally I got to the point where I was looking for a 2x4, because I was going to beat him down the next time he touched me. It just got to that point. And thank goodness I had somebody that interceded, because it was so upsetting to me that he was always putting his hands on me, even when like I would try to, and he would sneak it in, like, oh, she ain't looking now, I'm gonna come over there and just, oh. So I get you on that.
And I'm still very selective. Like,
yeah,
I'm very, 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 very selective. I will get grossed out in a minute with people touching me. I don't care what it is, touching my leg, and specifically men. Women don't hardly touch me anyway, but men that touch me, I have an aversion to it. Not dancing now. That's why when I came back, I immediately got into ballroom dancing, because the dancing doesn't bother me anymore. I can roll with it. I'm in control. I don't feel any vulnerability in that space. But if I'm on a date, or a guy touches me, it's like, you don't have that. I have not given you that level of influence on my journey. Don't touch me.
mm-hmm.
And I'm super serious about that. And it doesn't mean I don't like you or anything. It's just that that's something that is a part of me. And for all I know, wherever this journey is taking me, my hands are going to have some kind of power that I need to be I need to be protecting that. The touch is important.
Yeah. So so one of the things that she mentions in here, which I mentioned yesterday when I was telling you guys about Karen Andrea Hale, she says Kundalini yoga teaches a way of managing this energy and bringing about the Kundalini experience in ecstatic states of spiritual ecstasy, reach through disciplining one's sexual energy. And so that is good. She says also that that sometimes you can have these altered states of ecstasy also during meditation or an orgasmic release. So, good morning, Michelle. She says your personal space is just that, personal. No one should touch you without your permission. Yeah, and but it's so interesting though, because not everybody respects that. Exactly. And so what I found is that you teach people how to treat you. And so if that 2x4 had been in my hand, that guy would have found out really quickly how much, I mean, and I think that he knew that it irritated me, and I think he thought of it as a game after a while. But it wasn't a game to me. It was just something that was serious, and that was years ago. But I was needing to connect with him in a way so he understood clearly that I was not receptive to that, right? And that's not even in my nature. I mean, I feel, I will tell y'all, I pray when I kill a mosquito, because I am very clear about not wanting to the kind of energy that I put into the world. And so I was like saying, in one of my prayers, I was talking about a mosquito, and I'm saying, like, Lord, I said, like, don't you consider mosquitoes evil? and the message came back to me like, if you killing them, then you the one that's evil. So I have to pray about them doggone mosquitoes, because I'm not having it. So sexual eroticism normally produces orgasms, she says, and a release of this voltage energy is essential to physical, mental, and psychological health. So this is almost like a prescription saying that this is something that your body needs. It's not just and I think that's, we sort of look at it as if it is not a natural part of our being, this connectedness, this sharing of this wonderful energy. We sort of take it like it's an elective, like it's not essential, or like it's not important. And so we just kind of like dismiss it. We let that part of us, and that's one of the reasons why I keep circling back on it. We allow that part of us to remain dormant, or to be dormant, and think absolutely nothing about it. Yeah. But if we
it's because we have been programmed to suppress that energy. It's, we've been trained to suppress it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so one of the things that she says in here is that orgasms releases energetic debris out of our system, right? Yes. And so that's why I'm saying that people have said to me, will look at you and look at other people like, oh, did you get some work done? Or you look different today, or you're glowing, or they actually notice when you've had a good energetic debriefment, right? But she says that you can also get that through doing stuff like doing creative stuff,
dancing
or exercising. You can actually also get that, but those things are important. So don't just look at it as if you don't ever need that. We all need some type of release. I used to have people always ask me about vices. Do you have any vices? Like, how do you release things? And while I did not, or is it vices? Is that the word that I'm looking for? But if you don't have a way of releasing things, right, then that energy may be staying stagnant in your body. And that stagnant energy, that unmoving energy, needs something to move all of that debris out of your system. So go ahead.
No, I just said yes. I was just in complete agreement with you.
She says, when a person has no release, however, this energy backs up in the system, and without conscious management can produce reactions that run the gamut from depression to violence, right? And oh my gosh, it is. Yeah. So you got to figure out what it is that works for you, but also know that it does have, that this stuff does matter. There is a buildup that can happen, that tension that can happen, and you can do this on your own, right? It's not beyond you. Sometimes one of the things that I used to do is I used to love to go for hikes and walks and hug a few trees and recognize that intimacy can be found in a number of different ways. It's a different type of intimacy, but intimacy done nonetheless. And once you start to cultivate that, remember what I'm saying is that once you do that, it creates an energy around you that says that you're open and receptive to that. And then it draws more people into you that also need that same thing. But if you have that stuff laying dormant in you, then that dormancy is what it just doesn't speak to anybody. It don't have no kind of flavor in your life. So anyway, so once upon a time, she said, I would have scoffed at the idea of a sexual union leading to a spiritual bond, but the profound truth contained in the Kundalini and tantric teachings are evident in this following story. And so she talked about this woman named Linda, who she met, and she was saying that this woman had was telling her that she had never had a period, never had a cycle. And so she was like trying to understand, what, you never had a cycle? Like, what's that about? And so she did this this body scan on her, and she said that that Linda's stuff, her chakras and all that stuff seemed to be really open, but she had not only had a hysterectomy, but she had also had some issues in her uterus or her female organs. And so it's a convoluted story, because it goes in and out of her childhood. And she said that about the age of 16, Linda was diagnosed with underdeveloped sexual organs. And so she says, so her normal menstrual cycle was impossible, much less a pregnancy. And she was embarrassed by this condition. And she thought that it would impact or influence the way that sex would feel with her. So she was really scared when she finally had sex the first time with her boyfriend. She was scared that he was going to be able to tell that she had some female problems or some issues. Well, so she said that while she was in the course of having sex with him, she was praying all along, and then they experienced this amazing orgasm. And the orgasm, I think, scared them both, especially if you have never had one. I meet a lot of people who are sexually active who have never had an orgasm, or if they have had an orgasm, haven't had it during the course of intercourse. And so and so while I'm not trying to circle back on that, I'm trying to say that this scared them to the point where he went his way, she went her way, they both got married to somebody else, and then they both got divorced from the somebody else's that they both married, and then finally met back up. And when they finally met back up, then they were able to talk through and work through their issues, and then continue their sexual relationship or that connectedness where they had those amazing orgasms. But it was really interesting how their lives, even though they went separate ways, how they came back together as if it was an ordained experience, right? In order to heal themselves and then to continue on this journey. I thought it was really interesting, right?
It's powerful.
Yeah, the story itself, and I may not have done
no, you did
justice to it.
You did a nice abridged version.
Yeah.
Get the book. Because the book is like a fairy tale.
Yeah. So
like I thought the story was beautiful, and it spoke a lot to energy, and it, dispelled some myths that people have about sexual organs and what that means for their sex lives. And yeah.
And the interesting thing is that we've talked a lot about fear on here, and what fear keeps us from doing. And sometimes our fear keeps us from connecting with the very people that we want to connect with, right? There is a fear of not being accepted, because when she found out that she had issues in her sexual organs, or issues with her uterus, then she got to the point where, oh, he's going to want to have babies and I can't have babies, and he's going to judge me. He's going to feel this. He's going to know the difference. And so there is that thing, all of that fear compounded, caused them both to withdraw. Mm-hmm. And so when we are not able to have real connection and conversation, sometimes what we try to do is to be intimate, as in sharing our bodies without sharing our hearts or our minds. And that too becomes problematic.
It's difficult.
Yeah. Because then all you do is you're operating on, I'll say sometimes we're just operating on our emotional stuff without ever operating on the heart stuff. I don't know if I'm saying that.
Well, it's an indicator that you're not open all the way. Your chakras are closed. Your heart is closed when you are able to. One of them are closed. Either the second one or the fourth one is there's a shutdown. Usually they shut down together. Well, that's my story. They shut down together. And so some people just can't do it at all unless they're both open. And then some people can do what they do and don't have to have their heart in it. But it's a closure of energy.
Yeah, but I mean, can you imagine though that how many people, how many of us, and for how long? And I always say that this harkens back to the isms, the racism, the all of the stuff that we've experienced as a culture. But that's not to say that it doesn't happen across the board, right? Sometimes it is what we've learned. If say, for instance, you learned, I'm just saying, because we did this the other day, we talked about this the other day, and I we cringed, we all collectively cringed. But if we have been given the indication that we are just merely receptacles, right? Or that dirty rug on which people wipe their feet and keep going. If we've been given that image, we don't bring our whole self into the bed anyway. We're bringing a partial self into the bed, and we are going through motions, making noises, and participating in something that we are not fully present in. There is something about being wholehearted and bringing your whole self into a relationship that is extremely powerful. And if you don't feel empowered to do that, then we do become this surface individuals who are just, there for to receive, to be a dump for somebody else's stuff. But then the sad thing about it is that in their dumping their stuff, or they're getting themselves off, they're missing out too.
Oh yes.
It's almost
because like, if it's not, this is my imagination, probably why I'm by myself. But if it's not magical in the connection, then it's not a connection, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. And if the only goal there, because that's one of the powerful things about me when I read this particular book. One of the powerful things about this particular book is that this man was talking about how he could heal his wife or heal a body through sex.
Yes.
So there was an intention there of connecting, and not just about getting my jolly off. right? And that's part of the problem that we do. We go into it just with the end goal of, let me bust one.
Mm-hmm.
Whether
we go into it with an end goal.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah. And so I think that part of what we need to do is to reevaluate what it is that we're bringing to the table and recognize that this is a sacred act, a sacred yes, it's a sacred sharing. It is amazing when we can change our mind about it.
But what I've learned is that when it's sacred with me, that's why when you brought that book up, you know, you didn't know my story, you didn't know where I had come from. But when you brought the pussy book up, it was just I felt like it was the Holy Spirit saying, continue your work, daughter, continue your work, because I'd already started doing this work. I was going to sex parties and things like that. I didn't have no partner or anything, but the work that I had been doing with the shaman Tara, the work that I had been doing, it was like making me alive. And so the sacred part was me understanding it was sacred for me. And so therefore the people who I come in contact with in that way have to be a sacred connection, because the sacredness of it started with my attention to it, my desire to heal my second chakra, my desire to ignite its full power as I stand on my own in that.
Right.
And so then the connection is like the big bang.
Yeah. But you know, and so while you say that right there, let me say this, and this is one of the reasons why I think that I am who I am, or why I do what I do, right? You never know when something that comes up, something that you say is going to be impactful to another. So if we are always in edit mode, or if we're always in I'm not gonna say that, right? Good. We block sometimes the gift or the blessing that God has for the person or people we may be talking to at a moment. So my thing is that when I show up, if something comes up, let me share that, because I don't know how it's gonna fall. But if I'm constantly judging it, because literally, y'all, when I mentioned that book to Stephanie, we were sitting in the equivalent of a Bible class. We were in a Course in Miracles at a church, and I started talking about pussy, right? And so who knew that the people that were there would be like, you know, like, and into it, like, like when I started talking about it, it's like, you know, everybody started popping on that. And here I was in myself thinking to myself, like, man, I'm supposed to be a minister. I'm supposed to be walking a particular path. And then I mentioned something, and who knew it would be a blessing to somebody else. And so that's why I try to show up, and in my sharing, just give what I get, you know, without editing, without thinking, you know, I ain't even gonna sit up there and say, because this is one of the things I hear all the time. People will say, oh, they ain't ready yet. You know, nobody needs you to spoon feed me, right? If the person is not ready, it will slide off their back like water off of a duck's back. They won't even be able to hear you. It'll be something that they on another thought about.
That's good. That's a message for me. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's not sitting up trying to determine. If you get it, if it comes up, let it come out. Instead of just thinking that you all wise. I'm always hearing people that'll say stuff like, you know, or ask me, on what authority do you have that? Damn it.
Oh my God. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, so I think that I turned the page, didn't I? Sexual union for all its physical sexual union, for all its physical pleasures, also symbolizes a spiritual union of two people. It may well be that sexual energy opens a current of spiritual energy that forms a transcendent bond between two people who are deeply in love. If allowed, it allowed Linda and Steve to attain a state of consciousness described as Kundalini experience, a total expression of united power of the Safra of Yasad and the sacrament of communion. And communion, you guys know what communion is. Like we are taking something together, right? So whether it is taking in bread or wine or water or the blessing of information, whatever it is taking that and incorporating that into our spirit in unison in order for something to manifest.
That's described as a partnership.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the partnership chakra. And one of the things that remember the book I mentioned here, Prentice Mumford, Thoughts Are Things. In that book, he talks a lot about this idea of communion and what that means, and that we are experiencing communion with anybody that we break bread with or anybody that we share certain things with. So this is not something to just like dismiss or disregard. It is that too is a sacred act. So so the need to strive to honor one another is easily and frequently eclipsed in sexual encounters, largely because sexual energy is so often controlled by fear or unrestrained desires. Right? Mm-hmm. So men are made afraid of not being potent or masculine enough. Yet most tribes permit their boys to act out of control sexually until they reach a certain maturity. At that point, their capacity to act sexually responsible is expected to kick in automatically. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so much for that.
Yeah, the other day I got this interesting imagery. And it was as it relates to, prayer for me. And I am always talking about and saying that we are always praying. This is one and the same. It's not a shift, it's one and the same. But we are always praying. And if we can see it, that our words are seeds that we are putting out into a fertile universe. So even though you don't see soil here, even though you don't see the creative medium here, because it appears to be space, you are putting out a seed into the universe, and that seed sprouts. That seed produces. And so when you're not conscious of that, what you're doing is just like a seed. When they talk about a man and his seed, you are putting something out there. So we try to be really careful so that we don't see little babies popping up everywhere like popcorn. Boop, 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 boop. But if you can imagine that your words and your thoughts all produce like that, there's little pops here and there and everything. If you could just imagine that all of this is fertile, all of it is receptive, all of it is something that is waiting on you to create, right?
That's so good.
You would be more conscious of what it is that you're saying, because one instance we're talking about how we want a particular thing, but on the flip side of it, we are resisting or pushing it away with our fears, with our doubts. And so we speak over here on one thing, and then we create something else. And so now all of a sudden, it's just like if I was just to take a handful of seeds, if I take some cauliflower and some broccoli seeds and some okra seeds and all of that stuff and just throw it out there on the ground, that comes up as a jumbled mess. If you know, when it comes up, the one plant will choke out the other. It'll just be a mess. That's why we cultivate the soil before we put anything in there, because we don't want to see the weeds coming up choking out the life of something else. So we are intentional, right? You don't, and if you're going around spreading seeds anywhere, you know what a mess that is.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what a mess that is. And so we have to be intentional with what it is that we are putting out there, what it is that we are doing. And that intentionality allows us to create something that is strong and lasting, something that enlivens and develops us, as opposed to just dissipating or throwing out junk. So let your words be yay and nay, right? That's what they say, right? Let it be yes or no, and not all wavering. Understand that there is a creative medium always at work and receptive. And so even in our relationships, right? Once we recognize, and we got to start teaching our young men this, right? That not just that women have, because that's one of the things that we have always gotten the message, that it is women who need to protect themselves, right? We need to be the gatekeepers of this stuff. And so what does that say? That your seed is worthless, that our eggs are that we need to be the guardians alone? We all have to recognize that there is, oh my gosh, that this is, that this stuff is powerful. This is powerful, and we are creating something. Man, you know what? And it's funny though, because I don't even know that I could have heard this at an earlier age, because so many messages that we've received, so many messages that we've received. And we give men all the darn power. I don't even know if Desmond is on here or what men are on here, but we give men all the darn power. Because remember I was talking about that the other day, like, ooh, choose me, as if what we don't, y'all, when you see animals out in the animal kingdom, it's a woman that you got to whoop her ass in order for you to get some stuff, because she is the one that is determining who gets the prize here, darn it. They know, like, no, you can't, no, you ain't getting none of this.
It's so true. Without me, there is no you.
Right.
So just in that, the paradigm shift has to happen. And I only came to that revelation, I want to say, in the last 4 or 5 years. And then changing my mind about the energy behind that. Without me, there is no you. And having to give myself permission to stand in that. Like constantly having to remind myself of that. That's powerful. If you sit and just meditate on that without this, what we bring to this planet, what we bring in the partnership, what we bring into the communion, life, creativity, order, connection to all that is. I mean, there's so much that we bring to the table, but yet somehow we have, and I think she's going to talk about that in this section too, but yet we render ourselves second. How is that possible?
So, while I recognize that, that men go through some stuff too, right? We have
Black man.
Yeah. We have had some psychological damage that has been done. And I'm not trying to say that we're looking at men as if you're a reject, and so therefore we're rejecting you. We have to look at it like, yeah, this is not a match.
That's all.
Right? This is not a match.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the Course in Miracles says is that, when it talks about doing miracle work, it says that whoever is saner at the moment.
Yes.
right? Because sometimes our libido is talking. Our libido is saying, oh, you know what? I just need to get one off. I need to just get one off. And so if the libido is talking, it's overriding any sense of discretion and discernment. And it just wants to do what it does, what nature does. But whoever is saner at the moment can say, you know what, this is not a match, right? There is no resonance here. I'm not feeling this. I'm not feeling you, right? And that's not to say that you're not worthy of love and being loved, just not in that way by me at the moment, right? So I think that we have to all give ourselves permission to make clear decisions about what it is that we're doing and where we are sharing our energy, because that's important. And in order for us to do what is for our highest, and I mean, and this goes across the board. This is, so I can talk about it in terms of sex, but sometimes we got to say that with food too. Look at something and say, oh, you're not good for me. Right? Yeah, this ain't a match. Because I know when I eat you, when I take you into my system, this is how I feel. But somebody made appeal for that. And somebody made appeal for birth control, and somebody made appeal for this, and somebody made appeal for that. And so we just whatever, just throw it at me. Let me get it. We got to take better care. Be more mindful.
Be mindful. That's exactly what came across my heart.
Yes. Good. So, so it says men are made afraid of being not being potent or masculine enough, and yet their tribe permits their boys to act out of control sexually until they reach a certain age of maturity. At that point, the capacity to act sexually responsible is expected to kick in automatically. A common tribal perception is that young men have to sow their wild oats before they can settle down, freeing promiscuous males from the condemnation or accountability for their behavior. Biological urges, after all, control them. That's because a man wrote the book, right?
I mean, what happened? And I know that people, that's why I feel like, African-American therapists, we have some level of responsibility, probably get our PhDs to write other books, because what about the African-American man who has been used as an animal or a stud? Yeah. And so you quantify that behavior. That wasn't tribal, that was forced. Yes. Yes. So it's just interesting to me when I read certain things. I for whatever reason, and I apologize to the audience right now, but that's what's been on my heart for a while. I just kind of to remember where we come from. I can no longer just read and get information and not enter that variable into the equation. Like it's just. And so what does that mean for me when I read stuff like that? My brain goes, what does that mean for me as a person of color, or my sons, or the men that my grandfather and great grandfather,
Yeah, but I mean, and that's what I was just saying though. When it comes up, if it comes up in your consciousness, it comes up not just for you, but it comes up so that it can come out, so that whoever needs to hear that, it may be something, a healing balm for them, so that they can understand the motivations behind why they do what they do. And we can understand the analogies that we put behind it. We go around and we call, we call our men dogs for some odd reason. And what is that saying? What is that saying not only about them and about us? And I will tell you that for me, I want to lift my brothers. I am never want to be that woman that's sitting up talking about them and tearing them down. That to me is that's corrosive to our community. And so without the historical perspective of all these influences that have happened over the years, without that historical perspective, then we got a big part of our story that's missing. And all we do is we talk about what comes up, what, that's like the throwing the seeds out there, the craziness that comes up without recognizing what it was that created it in the first place.
Yes.
And so when something like that happens, right? When you get a whole bunch of seeds that's sprouting, I know, like for me, like I talk all the time about what I did in my garden is I would just let the tomatoes just, some of my let fall on the ground. And then the next year when those tomatoes start to sprout up, then if I want any of them to grow, that means that I need to then like separate them out. I need to take some of them up out of there so that the ones that I want to grow can actually grow and not be in there fighting for life. They got to fight for sunlight. They got to fight for space. They got to fight for everything. So now I need to thin it out, right? And then, and so I can go into all kind of stuff with the planting analogy, but we got to really start to look at what we have is that we got a jumbled mess.
Yeah.
And without us doing the work of cultivating and recognizing that we've got to be intentional, we got to understand first off what happened, and then start to maneuver so that we can make something beautiful out of this, and that we all get to enjoy the bounty. Yeah, so women, it says, however, are still not given the license to explore their sexual natures. Despite the 3 decades of women's liberation, that we are still required to behave and to control their sexual energy, while men have a license to enjoy. Many women are made to fear losing control or being thought of as sexual beings. And she says that one of her workshops, the participants described how her mother always made her feel dirty whenever she dressed up to go out with friends. And so one of the things that I want to say to you too is that sometimes what we do is we take on the ideologies and the language of the oppressor. I'll say it like that. We take on the language of somebody else, and we perpetuate the same judgments and ideas on each other, on one another. And so at a certain point, we have got to break the cycle. It's funny because sometimes people will, my mother used to talk a lot about growing up in Mississippi, and she would talk about how they would have girls that were barely into puberty, barely getting their period, and be required to be married at 13 and 14, and so
the color purple.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it's real life. It's real life. I mean, this is what happened.
I know.
And so when you think about that stuff, and then we start talking about babies raising babies, well,
yeah,
this idea of not being married or not being able to get married until after a certain age is relatively new. Right? And so we don't get excused for being unconscious because we're young or because somebody is young. But it was a village that raised children back then. It wasn't just one person. It was that you grow up in a context, right? And so everybody is not, everybody, sometimes what you learn is what you see going on around you. And so then, one of the other things is that it was always interesting how people would, nowadays we got birth control. Nowadays we have DNA testing, and you could tell paternity. That stuff wasn't something that people were able to do just 20 years ago, right? Within our lifetime.
Yes. Yes.
And so things are changing every single day. And so too must our judgments change.
Oh, come on.
Right?
It's so true.
It just,
oh my God. It's so true.
So we still have the mindset
Yes.
that, of like somebody coming on here talking about, keeping your secrets, or somebody else saying something about sin, or somebody else saying something else.
I'm like,
That
whoa.
all of these things just keep becoming more
Go.
toxicity that you keep layering onto us, rather than trying to figure out how to get to the beauty that is us.
I used to say, don't nobody love God more than me. He will send me my mail. That's why I'm always seeking, like, what is the answer? Why can't I let this go? Yeah. You can't tell me, the secrets and the sins and come on.
But
God is real and alive.
But he is here now. Here now. And so sometimes it is just the revealing that needs to happen. No, send me, no, in the sweet by and by. It is here now.
Right now.
I'm giving thanks. I'm giving thanks. I'm giving thanks. Thanks that it is here now. Right. Her mother's sexual innuendos made her feel like she was attracting the attention of any man.
We at our hour.
That's what I was just looking at. I was like thinking to myself, like, okay, let me put a hash mark in here. Her mother's sexual innuendos made her feel that attracting the attention of any man was equivalent to prostitution. Her mother's emotional invasiveness was a violation of her daughter's energy. Now, y'all know I love talking about these archetypes, especially the one about prostitution, because that has been something that I think in our community we struggle with, right? And whether we struggle with it based on our own feelings, right? That please choose me kind of thing. And a man feeling as long as I got enough money or a big enough house or whatever, I can have you. It's almost like being up on the auction block all over again. So the idea of where money and power and all of that stuff comes into our relationship, that is big to me. If nothing else, we need to understand that. But we can't talk about that today. That'll be tomorrow. That'll be tomorrow. And I have a tendency sometimes to get stuck on stuff, but I'm not trying to stay stuck on here. But I want to talk about what we do to our young people, what we do to ourselves. Because sometimes we look in the mirror and we call ourselves, my dad used to have these little sayings that he thought was funny and cute, like talking about telling somebody they smell like a $2. I can't even say it, but when he'd talk about perfume or talk about makeup, and he would always relate it to somebody being a prostitute or a hoe or something like that. And that wasn't his verbiage, but it was just kind of like the stuff that he would say that he thought was amusing. And he didn't say that stuff to me. That was interesting, though. He would say it to other people, but he never said it to his daughters. So yeah. So that's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing too. Because and I'll tell you, it ain't funny. It ain't stuff like that ain't funny to me. That we say or think that about anybody, right? Yeah, so we really do have to check ourselves. Check yourself, because you creating that popcorn effect everywhere. These words are seeds, and they're just, pop, pop, pop. They're producing. They're producing, whether you know it or not. All right. So with that, y'all, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I've I don't know. I'm feeling some kind of way today, but it's all good. It's all right where it's supposed to be. I put it there, and all of it is well. So I will see you guys here tomorrow, same time, same place. I thank you for being here. And yeah, like Stephanie said, get the book if if you're really interested.
Yeah, it'll cause you to just, it's really good. It's really good. It causes you to just wake up, and it has caused me to just be more bold. And now I'm only I'm in the heart of, I've read ahead. And even in this space, it has helped me just to re-examine that space, the high blood pressure and all. Oh, it's just so good.
Yeah. And I will say to you guys that this work is work that is a lifetime of work. It's never like, I've been there, done that. It's not that. I could have read this book. I read this book 4 times, and each time is speaking something different to me at different stages in my life. Right. And just like the Bible does. The Bible is the same way. All of a sudden you read it and it's like, whoa, like where was that? Right? Where did that come from? Was that there all the time? Yeah, was that there the whole time? But you get a new application for it. It's like, whoa.
That's not, our housekeeper used to say, just keep living, darling. Just keep living.
Yeah.
Things just start to come alive.
Yeah. So, all right, y'all. So do something wonderful today, right?
Yes. Happy Friday, y'all.
Yeah, even if it's just challenging yourself on your fear, right? Let me do that. Yesterday I did something that I had been putting off, and today I'm going to do something else that I've been putting off. Just challenge yourself to do what is before you, even if it's just, whatever it is. Masturbate. I don't know.
Hey, man, high five.
Treat yourself.
Create a sacred space.
Look, sometimes you have to encourage yourself.
Go away for a weekend and just be amazing.
Look, this is a spiritual experience. Sometimes you.
Yes.
All right. Yes. That's a great song.
That is an excellent song.
Yeah. Tell Alexa to play Encourage Yourself.
Who is that? Is that she did it?
No. Oh. No, she didn't hear me say it. But
is it Dottie or somebody? I can't. She's on my workout playlist.
I think it's by some choir. I think when my thing comes up, it'll say it's by a choir.
Well, anyway, I'll get it for tomorrow. But anyway, find it.
Encourage yourself. Right? Just encourage yourself. Yeah. That's a good one. I'm going to do that right now. All right, y'all. Love you. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, dear.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Here we go.